All right, so everybody has their ACT practice test out. You've got your calculator, you've got your pen or your pencil. We're ready to go. All right, some reminders. Either Miss Collins or the sub has given you guys your room assignment for tomorrow. So tomorrow, make sure that you go to that room. Make sure that you're on time. Make sure that you have a calculator, something to write with. If you don't have a calculator, please come find me or Miss Collins in the morning and we'll get you. All right. The ACT is a timed test, but try not to let that freak you out. Your teacher is going to tell you when there is 30 minutes left, 10 minutes left, all that good jazz. The most important thing on this ACT is to do your best to answer as many questions as you can. If you don't know the answer to something or you don't know how to start it, skip it and come back to it. All right. Since it's timed, you don't want to spend all your time just staring at one question. The other important thing is to make sure that nothing gets left unanswered. There is no penalty for wrong answers, so when your teacher calls out that there are 5 minutes left, please make sure that you bubble in something for all the rest of them that you did not answer. Do not leave anything blank. All right, so I've got a practice test here. We haven't taught all of these. If you guys remember, the ACT does all the mathy stuff from about 6th grade to 12th grade. So since you guys are in 11th grade, you don't know the answers to all of them, and that's okay. You don't need 100% on this test. But we are going to run through some of the ones that we definitely know how to do. Okay. So you've got this in hand. You're following along. All right. So the first one says, which of the following lists all the positive factors of 32? Well, that's just write out a factor chart. We've been doing that for God knows how long. So 32 divided by 1 is 32. Divided by 2 is 16. Divided by 3 does not work. Divided by 4 does not work. What am I thinking? Divided by 5 doesn't work. Oh, I'm sorry. 4 does work. 8 divided by 5 doesn't work. Divided by 6 doesn't work. 7 doesn't work. 8 is my repeat. All right, so they didn't write it out in 2 columns like we did, but I know that it needs to start with 1, which means it can't be B, C, or D. And I know that it's more than just 1 and 32, so it must be E. So there's another good test taking strategy. If you know that you can get rid of answers, do that. All right, the next one says all CDs are equally priced. If 8 CDs cost 76 bucks, what is the cost of 1 CD? So here's what we know. 8 CDs cost $76. Well, let's figure that out. If we wanted to solve that, we would divide that by 8. So 76 divided by 8 gives you 9.5. Which is equal to 950. You could also just guess and check this one. You could do 10 cents times 8, and that's not $76. $2.05 times 8, not $76. All right, number 3 is a multiplying one. All right, so we need to multiply our numbers together first. So 2 times 3 times 5. That one's just calculator math. 2 times 3 times 5 is 30. So automatically I know it's not D or E because it needs to start with 30. And then when we do our exponents, remember that we're counting up how many x's there are. So 2x's here, 2x's here, and 2x's here makes x to the 6th, 6 x's. No y's, 2 y's, and then another y would make 3 y's. So this one has to be C. Sorry, my tracking is off here. This one has to be C. 30, x to the 6th, y to the 3rd. All right, number 4 says, what is the value of the expression? And then it gives some big old numbers, but it tells you that x is 250. So that means replace this x with 250. So that's 10 parentheses, 100, and instead of x, we're going to write 250. Anytime you replace something in math, you use parentheses. Minus 10,000 plus 100. So that is all calculator magic. And I typed this into the calculator and I got 150100, which, hey, matches up with G right here. All right, so that one was just a plug and chug. So far, the first 4 of these questions have all been super good to us. All right, let's talk about number 5 then. Number 5 should look familiar if you knew how to do number 3. 4x to the 3rd times 5a to the 8th. Also, first off, we got to do 4 times 5. 4 times 5 makes 20. So right off the bat, not A, not B, not C. And then count up my A's. 3 A's and 8 A's makes A to the 11th. So D. So that whole first page went by super fast. All right, so let's go on to page 2 where we start getting into some geometry here. Now, the ACT loves to draw pictures, so it would help to label it. AD is 16, so this whole thing right here is 16. ED is 11. Let me pause real fast here. If the whole thing is 16 and this bit of it is 11, then I know that this bit of it must be 5, because 11 plus 5 would get me the total of 16. All right, go back to my other color here. All right, and it says AE is congruent to CD. Congruent is a fancy math word that just means equal. So AE, well, we already know that that's 5, so that means that CD is also 5. Well, hey, if this is 5, I also know that this is 5. I know that this guy is 11. So look at how much information we were able to get just from that. It says, what is the length of AB? Well, AB is right here. And I see that it's on a triangle, a right triangle. That means I can use PFAG. So PFAG is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And remember, that's one of the ones you got to have just memorized. All right, well, A and B are both 5. So that's 5 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. 5 squared is 25, so this is 25 plus 25 equals C squared. Makes 50. And if you'll recall, the opposite of squaring something is to square root it. So the square root of 50 is 7.07, whole bunch of numbers. Okay, notice that none of these answers here say 7.07. All right, now what I can do right off the bat is it can't be 5 or 6 or 25, right? Because those aren't decimals. I can type 5 square root 2 into my calculator and see if that matches. Same for 11 square root 2. So 5 square root 2 in my calculator is 7.07, something, 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 which already matches, so I know that it's G. But if I did 11 square root 2 first, that one would have been 15.55, nowhere near, so I know that it's not J either. All right. Number 7, we haven't officially taught, but it says, which of the following numbers is least in value? This one's really just calculator magic. Type all these expressions into your calculator and figure out which one is smallest. So 0.02 times 10 to the 4th is 200. 0.2 times 10 to the 3rd is also 200. 2.0 times 10 to the negative 2 is 0.02. So already I know that C is smaller than A and B, so I'm going to cross those guys out. D, 20 times 10 to the 2 makes 2,000. So it can't be that because 0.02 is still smaller. And then let's do the last one. 0.002 times 10 to the 5th made 200. So the smallest was C. And we found that just by plugging stuff into the calculator, right? Even though we didn't teach it, that one was figure outable. All right. So let's move on a little bit. Oh, this doesn't want to erase today. Sorry, guys. All right. Number 8 is one of the ones that we did not teach this year. This one is a geometry question. So as a reminder, if you don't know anything about it, just mark something and move on. Don't leave it blank. For this one, though, just as a reminder, because I think this one is doable if you remember some geometry, all the angles in a triangle have to add up to make 180. So I know that if I add all of these together, it should equal 180. It doesn't tell us what these guys are, so I'm just going to put x's. So this is going to be 50 plus x equals 180, right? Add all of them up equals 180. Well, minus out the 50 from both sides. X plus x is really just 2x, and I'm going to be lazy, equals 130. Divide out the 2, and we get x equals 65. So hey, that one was doable. All right, number 9 is a little bit of guess and check. There is no mathy way to do this. There's just trying to know your math facts. The sum of the real numbers a and b is 13. So if you add two numbers together, you get 13. There's a whole bunch of choices there. Their difference is 5. So if you subtracted them, you would get 5. So let's try and think of some numbers that if you added them together, you get 13. Well, one of the pairs of numbers you could think of is 1 plus 12. But if you subtracted them, you don't get 5. 12 minus 1 is 11, so that doesn't work. What about 2 plus 11? That would also get you 13. But 11 minus 2 doesn't get you 5. 3 plus 8, if you add them. Oh, sorry. 3 plus 10. Oh, my goodness. 3 plus 10, if you add them together, you get 13. But 10 minus 3 is 7. So we're getting closer. Let's try 4 plus 9. If you add them together, you get 13. If you subtract them, you get 5. So hey, 4 and 9 would be my numbers. And then it says, what is the value of A, B? Now, remember, if you see two things smushed together like that, that means to multiply. So this is saying 4 times 9, which is 36. So that one was kind of a guess and check one, knowing what sum meant, knowing what difference meant, and just sitting with it for a second. All right. The next one, we go back to things that me and Miss Collins have taught. Now, it's percents. We haven't done percents since before Christmas break, but that's okay. All right. So it says 37 is what percent of 144? So as a reminder, percent means divide. So 37 divided by 144. Well, 37 divided by 144 is 0.256944444444. All right, I'm going to leave that alone for just a second. All right, so let's look at our answer choices. Reminder, percent means to divide by 100. So 26% really means 26 divided by 100, which is 0.26. That's pretty close, 0.256, that's super close. Check the other ones, nothing else is going to come closer. 0.37, 0.44, 0.74, and 1.07. So the closest, and notice that it says to the nearest. That means there's going to be some rounding stuff going on. All right, so if you remembered that percent meant to divide, that one was super easy. All right. So the next guy, the ACT loves to do this. Use the following information to answer questions 11, 12. So this graph right here is going to get used for both of these questions. All right. So the number 11 says approximately what percent of the money collected from entry fees over the 3 days was collected on day 2. So it says approximately, so that means your best guess. Day 2, if I trace this over, day 2 is about 500. And it's out of all 3 days. So if you look up here, reading is important. All 3 days was 1450. So we're going to do 500 divided by 1450, which gets us 0.34487 da 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 da. Right. So that says find which one of these answers is closest. Remember, percent means to divide by 100. So 29%, 29 divided by 100 is 0.29. Not that close. 34% is 0.34. I think that's going to be as good as we get. 34.34 and 0.344, super close. All right. Number 12 says the mean amount per day collected. All right, so mean means to add them all up and divide by how many there are. So we're going to figure out how much about each day is worth. We already said day 2 is about $500. Day 1 looks like it's about $550. Day 2 we said is about $500. Day 3, I always got to trace these over. Day 3 looks like it's about $400. And then divide by how many days there were. So in this case, 3. All right, this is calculator magic. 550 plus 500 plus 400. Make sure to hit that equal sign. 1450, which is good because that's what it says we made over the 3 days anyway. Divided by 3 is 483.3 repeating. So we're going to look over here, which one is closest? Well, it's that 483 right there. All right, so far so good. All right, erase some stuff here. All right, 13 says for all n, 3n plus 5 squared equals. We just took our quiz on this on Friday, right? 3n plus 5 squared, a parentheses squared, means to do that parentheses twice. And then we're going to do this double distributing thing. So 3n distributed gets us 9n squared. By the way, I can right off the bat cross off A, B, and C, or A and B, because they start with 6n. 3n times 5 makes plus 15n. Going to distribute this plus 5 now, plus 15n, plus 25. Combine my like terms in the middle. 9n squared, 15 plus 15 makes 30. And the one that matches with is E. All right, number 14. A certain brand of cereal costs $3.25 per box before sales tax is added. When you buy 5 or more boxes of this cereal, you receive 1 additional box for free. What is the average cost per box of cereal for 6 boxes before sales tax is added? So notice you're going to buy 5 of these boxes, 6th is free. So that's going to be $3.25 5 times, right? So $3.25 times 5. So that says the total amount you're going to pay is $16.25. But that doesn't get you 5 boxes of cereal. That actually gets you 6. Remember, average is the total amount divided by how many there are. So you're going to pay $16.25, but you're going to get 6 boxes of cereal. So we're going to take $16.25, divide it by 6, and the answer is 2.708333333. Closest one that is 271. All right, number 15, we have not taught, but hopefully you remember this all the way back from 8th grade. Rana and Tom own a pizza shop which offers 3 kinds of cheese, 4 kinds of meat toppings, 5 kinds of vegetable toppings. Each type of pizza on the menu has a combination of exactly 3 ingredients. 1 cheese, 1 meat, 1 vegetable. How many types are possible? Well, there's 3 different kinds of cheese, so you could do 3 kinds of cheese times 4 kinds of meat times 5 kinds of vegetable toppings. So 3 times 4 times 5 means that there are 60 pizzas possible. That's all that there is for that. All right. Number 16 says, on a real number line, what is the midpoint of -3 and 11? So midpoint means the middle, surprise, surprise. And if it were me, I would just write this one out. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can tell I'm getting a little lazy there. So it asks us to find the midpoint. So what we're going to do is cross off 1 from each, which I guess means I need to write them all out. So I can cross off 1 from the left, 1 from the right, 2 from the left, 3 from the left and right, 4, 5, 6, 7. The middle is 4. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause it here. You'll notice that in about 20 minutes, we made it through 16 questions. That's awesome. All right, reminders, leave nothing blank tomorrow. Come get a calculator if you don't have one. Make sure you use the crap out of it. All right, good luck on the ACT. Make sure you've got your room assignment. There is a practice ACT test on Schoology. It's got 6 questions for you to try out on your own.